Let me think about it. This is a very common closing objection that when done wrong leads to ghosting and endless follow-up that will drive you crazy. In this video, I'm gonna cover 3 mistakes to completely avoid and a very simple 5-step process on how to overcome this objection to actually close on the spot. Mistake number 1, agreeing without actually having clarity on the objection. When you really think about it, when they say, I need to think about it, what exactly do they need to think about? Do they need to think about your solution, the product, the offer? Do they think about the pricing? Do they need to talk internally? Do they have concerns about you, the company, etc., etc., etc.? The truth is, you really don't know. So the big mistake is to simply agree and then say, cool, let me follow up later on, which will ultimately lead to you being ghosted. Mistake number 2, looping. Now, if you're not familiar with looping, it was made really popular by Jordan Belfort, in which when someone states one objection, you come back with different loops or responses to try to overcome that. So for example, if they say, let me think about it, someone that's looping might say, well, if you want to think about it, that's totally fine. How about I give you a discount, you move forward right now? Or let me give you X amount of months for free. Let me give you Y for free. Let me give you this if you take action today. What if I give you guarantee, will you move forward right now? Oftentimes it comes in the form of, if I do this, will you do that? Now, if I do this, will you do that? There's a time and place for that, but when you do looping, what happens is you actually create resistance with the prospect, which ultimately pushes them away and they feel gross and you feel gross personally as well. So you don't want to loop. Mistake number 3, being overly aggressive. Now, I've seen this happen with an overly aggressive rep where the prospect says, let me think about it. And the rep says, well, what do you need to think about? And you can feel the awkwardness on the call where the salesperson feels awkward, they feel awkward. It's just not a fun place to be. So you want to completely avoid these 3 mistakes by simply not doing these 3 mistakes. And instead, utilize my very simple 5-step framework that you can do literally right on the spot. And it's my very simple HEART method. HEART. And we're going to break each step down so this way you can actually uncover what the objection is to properly overcome it. Now, first off, the H, which is make them feel heard. So when they say, let me think about it, make them feel heard. And that might sound something like, hey, Marcus, not a problem at all. I definitely want you to take as much time as you want to think about it. Notice my tonality. Notice how I'm saying it. Notice there's no surprise. There's no awkwardness. It's very soft. It's very easy. It's very comfortable. We want to remove the sales pressure. Now, if we go back to mistake number 1, which is just agreeing without actually uncovering what the objection is, that's when we move into the next stage of the HEART method, which is E for elaborate. We want them to now elaborate what they want to think about. So when you bolt on the H and now the E, it might sound something like this. Definitely, Marcus, I want to take as much time as I want to think about this. Now, just so I have a little bit of clarity here, what are some specific things that you might want to think about? Notice the tonality here. Notice it's very comforting. It's very soft. It's very easy. Notice the intentional pausing, because I do want them to just pause and think about it. And if you think about this in today's world, when they leave, they might think about it for a little bit, but what usually ends up happening is they go back into the mess of their life, the business of work, responsibilities, their phone's going off, the Slack is going off, email's going off, and they'll forget everything you guys have already discussed. So when you actually pause and you have them elaborate, this helps them to start processing through what exactly they need to think about. Now, sometimes they may at this point give you another response like, well, I just kind of want to digest this a little bit. Now, at this point, you have a choice to make. And most average reps will say, okay, cool. All right, sounds good. I'll follow a little bit later. Now, my challenge to you is you want to dive a little bit deeper. So how can you ask the same question in a different way? So for example here, that elaborate might sound something like this, where definitely. So just so I just understand though, what are some specific things that's on your mind? Notice there, I said basically the same thing as earlier in a slightly different way. So our goal here is to get them to elaborate a little bit more to really think about it. And if it gets to the point where they're not able to really tell you, you may need to have some preset questions to help them understand and uncover what potentially might be on their mind. They might simply be uncomfortable that it's a buying situation. So for example, that might sound something like this. Okay, no problem at all. Definitely want you to think about it. So just to make it very, very simple. So in terms of the product itself or service or solution, what do you think? Is this exactly what you're looking for? Do you believe it will help you get the desired outcome you want to get? Now, obviously you can massage some of this framing here to fit your situation, but you get my point. We're trying to make sure whatever you showed them is exactly what they want. Now, if they say something like, Pretty much. If they sound like they're potentially hesitant or that there's a little bit of pause that there's something else on their mind, you want to go a little bit deeper. Oh, okay, that sounds good. So it seems like you're just a little bit of pause there. So what exactly is that you're thinking about in terms of the product? And you want to pause and let them kind of digest and kind of think about it. And the really cool part is when you are in that situation, if you've done a good job up front and you have earned their trust, and you're kind of helping them kind of mentally make this decision, and it's not about a hard yes or a hard no, you're just kind of helping them kind of guide their process forward. It's amazing what happens. And they might be like, well, actually, I feel really good about this solution. Great. So now you know, check, cool. They feel good about solutions and as it deliver the desired outcome they want. Maybe next it's the price, right? Hey, in terms of the program pricing, the software pricing, the solution pricing, does that align to what you have in mind? Notice again, it's very soft. It's very, very easy. And again, I'm only going to ask these questions if I've already asked a few different times about the elaborate piece and they still haven't told me. I'm trying to isolate out what exactly is on their mind. So if they say the pricing sounds good, great, right? That makes it very easy. Or if they're unsure about the pricing, that's okay too, because now you're getting very clear about what they're thinking about, all right? So that is very, very important. So let's assume here that they are also good with the pricing as well. So when you really think about it, then you can just give them a little perspective. And that might sound something like this, and this is still part of the elaborate. It might sound like, so Marcus, just make sure I'm on the same page. You like the product. You believe it's going to help you get to your desired outcome that you're looking for. You're good with the pricing. You told me earlier you make the decisions as well. So, I'm confused. What else is there to think about? To notice there, when you walk them through that kind of logical step-by-step process, it puts them in a position to be like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, you know what? Like, I guess there's nothing else to think about. So now you may not need to go through anything else. It's very simple, simply just to ask for the business. Or if they are still hesitant, like, oh, I just kind of want to digest it and mull it over, that might end up still being the case. Now, at this point, we still don't know exactly what the objection is, but there is a good balance to make sure you don't overstep too hard and get overly aggressive. Now, I'll tell you now, out of experience, 99% of the time, if you follow this part of the framework, they're either going to be telling you straight out exactly what it is, or they'll give you some sort of other reasoning or excuse, etc., which then you can actually handle that. So let's just say, for example, you went through that same framework, you did the H, you did the E. Let's just say, for example, maybe they're just not 100% certain that the solution will give them the outcome that they want. Maybe they're like a 9 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. So they say, oh, yeah, we like everything. The pricing's good. It looks like a pretty good program overall. I just kind of want to just kind of check out some of your testimonials and case studies, kind of just make sure it's like, it's really going to fit exactly what we needed to do. Interesting. So that tells you right there they have a little bit of uncertainty, right? So if we did the H, we did the E, we go to the next stage, which is the A, which is, aside from that objection, do they have anything else on their mind? And that might sound something like, okay, if I understand you right, it sounds like you feel really good about the solution, you feel good with the pricing, and ultimately, aside from just wanting to maybe look at some testimonials, you feel really good about the solution and partnering up for this coming year. Is that correct? Yes, 100%. Cool. There's nothing else that's keeping you from being less than 100% except for maybe checking out a couple testimonials. Is that right? Nope, there's nothing else. Beautiful. So the really cool part is when you do the A that way, it helps you ensure there's no other objections. So now, then you can go into the next step, which is R, which is reclarify value. Now, the difference is here, when people think reclarify value, they're thinking, I need to now pitch them on why they need to make a change, etc. We're actually not going to do that. Instead, we're going to have them sell themselves by simply reminding them the value of the solution. So let's say in the same example here, in which their concern is they want to check out a couple testimonials, just make sure it's going to deliver the desired outcome. The reclarify value might sound something like this. Okay, definitely. Not a problem at all. Definitely want you to check out some of those testimonials. Now, remind me again, Marcus, based on what we discussed so far and what you've seen and the research you've done, what have you liked the most? And just pause and let them start talking. And they're going to start telling you whatever. Well, we like feature A because it's going to help us achieve X. We like feature B because it's going to help us achieve Y. We like feature C to help us achieve outcome Z, etc., etc., etc. And you might have to ask a few times to kind of get them talking a little bit, but the goal is to get them back in that reframe so they really understand the value. And oftentimes, when you are just helping them process their thoughts by verbalizing out loud, it's amazing when you get to the very end of it, they say, yeah, that's why I like all those things. And it becomes so natural then to go for another close in a really soft, easy way where it's like, well, clearly you like all these things. It seems like it's a no-brainer. Should we just get you going right now? It's simple. It's easy. You're not making it a big deal. And by the way, this works whether it's a small deal or big deal. It's the same type of concept. As long as you've done a good job on the front end, you're able to actually do it because you actually gain their trust. Now, you'll see at this point, you're going to have a percentage of prospects from like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, they're logically sold. They're emotionally sold. You're hitting all parts of the brain. They're like, yep, It's cool, and you can literally just take care of the paperwork, take care of the DocuSign, the Panadoc, and get them rocket rolling right on the spot, which is a really cool situation. Now, let's say, for example, they're not quite there, and that's when you have to go into the last step, which is the T, which is transition to a close. And this is the part of the process where you're actually going to be overcoming their objection, depending on what it is. So if you notice, even with this framework, like HEAR is pretty much them talking. You are just the master at asking the right questions, kind of guide them to the path to mentally process through where they are to where they want to go. So now to transition to a close, we want to overcome the objection. So the transition to a close, your response is going to really vary depending on what was their primary objection. So this is where, if you've done a good job, if you've been on sales calls, you'll uncover at the end of the day, they're always going to have very similar objections across the board. You can have a handful of the same 3 to 5 every single time, as long as you're consistent. If you understand that, then you should have good designed responses to ensure those objections are no longer objections. But the mistake some people make is they use them as loops in their back pocket. So when someone gives the objection, they assume, and then they try to use that as a loop. You don't want to do that. You still want to go through the framework of HEAR first. And then we go into the T, actually handling the objection. So let's go back to that same example. Let's just say, for example, if they were still concerned about, they had some uncertainty about the solution being able to deliver what they're looking for, and they want to see a couple different testimonials. So at this point, you could simply say, hey, so I know you mentioned you want to see a couple different testimonials. So can you help me understand what are some specific ones that you do want to see? I'll make sure to get the right ones over to you. What are some specific outcomes or industries, etc., that you want to be able to see? So you want to uncover these things on the spot, because then this is going to help you from what you're going to do next, but also it's going to help you potentially on the back end follow-up if you need to do the follow-up as well. So let's just say, for example, they want to know if you had ever worked with a client that's in cybersecurity. Now, if you know your case, if you know your testimony, if you know your business inside and out, you'll be able to pull this up pretty quickly in your head to be able to bring up. And let's just say, for example, if it's on Zoom and they mention, yeah, we want to just kind of see some of the use cases, some examples. And this is the part where when you're able to access that data and pull it up very quickly, you can actually help share the story. So that might mean in the situation, you say, oh, okay, perfect. So if I understand right, if you see one testimonial of one of our cybersecurity clients, that'll put your mind at ease and you'll feel comfortable partnering up together. Is that right? Yeah, definitely. Cool. You sure? So I'll make sure I get you the right ones. 100%. I'll feel really good. Okay, awesome. Well, since we have some time, let me just pull up really quick. Then you can share your screen. You can pull up the case study story, and you can walk through the story and align to their needs as well and overcome that objection right on the spot. Because the cool part is when you walk through that story in the case study, now you are satisfying this concern that they have. And now it's super simple. Say, hey, so at this point, do you feel good partnering together so we can help you achieve your big desirable objective, whatever they have told you? And at that point, they'll tell you yes or no, right? And of course, if you've done a good job so far, it'll be yes. Or if they're still not quite there and they really want to mull it over, now I can just send a follow-up call on the spot so they have time to digest it, and you can send them some warm resources right after the call. So as you can see, this simple 5-step method of HEART, which is make them feel heard, elaborate, aside from the objections, is there any objection, re-clarifying value, then transition to close. When you consistently run this framework, when you're getting that, let me think about it, objection, you'll be able to overcome objection majority of the time right on the spot to actually close, as long as you've done a good job on the front end of the process of discovery and managing the whole flow of the call. And for the small percentage of times where you aren't able to close on the spot, which is totally fine, you'll be able to set firm next steps to discuss in more detail, and you'll have a clarity on what's really on their mind, in which this allows you to have better follow-up in between now and that call to actually overcome that objection. And in my experience, this is the absolute best way to handle the closing objection. Let me think about it. Now, if you like this video and you want to learn more about mastering objections, and you want to see me handle some objections live with some prospects and some students, I'll see you in the next video.